Hi, Joe Kehrig with the Kehrig Real Estate Team, and this is your Tassajara Valley Blackhawk neighborhood update, the week of May 3rd, 2021. So let's jump right into the graphs, and then we're going to chat a little bit about the market. First off, you can see in Tassajara 94506. You can see actually it's not a bad sign because we're seeing the pending sales stay about the same, dipping a little bit, but we're seeing a little bit more inventory coming on the market. Because again, what we have right now, people go, there's no inventory, there's no inventory, there's no inventory. Well, if that was really true, then why are we going to set records that we haven't had in decades of they're thinking we're going to have over 7 million sales? Well, if there's no inventory, how can you have 7 million plus sales? We've been having like 5.5, the 6 million. Well, the reason why is there's more demand than there is supply. But what's really driving this market is the demand because of interest rates, being so low because people are relocating. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. But let's look at Blackhawk. You can see the Blackhawk market, pending sales up. But the good part is the active is staying consistent. See, what's kind of driving this is there's so much demand, but right now the supply is somewhat keeping up with the demand, which is still a seller's market. But as long as we still have that supply coming on the market. Now, in lower price areas like Dublin and San Ramon, where the average price is, between $1 million and $1.2 million, we're still seeing pending sales go up and active properties go down because there's a lot more buyers. Pricing is like a pyramid. As you go up, there's less buyers. As you go down in price, there's more buyers. So there's definitely more demand depending on the price. And in Tassajara Valley, the average price is $2 million. In Blackhawk, you'll see it's higher than that. So let's look at Tassajara. So active properties, the average price is about $1,850,000. The pending price is about $1,850,000. The sold price, which things have been selling for 111% of asking, is over $1.9 million. And you go, well, geez, look at the sold properties are more than the pendings. Well, if you take that 111% and put it on the pending of $1.8 million, you're going to end up with an average price of over $2 million. So we'll see what happens with that next week. You can see the days on the market. Things are still flying off the market. But as long as we have more inventory coming on, even though it's a seller's market, you'll continue to see a fast and furious market. And in Blackhawk, you'll see that the average price of the active properties is over $4 million. Remember, there's just 12 to 15 homes on the market. Pending is about 2.3. Sold properties, 2.445. Now, just 98% of asking, but there was only 2 properties that closed last week in Blackhawk. So again, if you just have one that sells a little bit lower, it's going to move the number, quite a bit. So, when we look at this market, how did we get to this point? Because obviously, even though there's still a lot of homes coming on the market, the demand compared to the supply is out of whack. Well, look at this graph. Homes built in the U.S. by decade. Look at from 2010 through 2019. How is that so out of whack? Well, because the builders got hurt so bad in 2007, 8, 9, 10. And remember, this is why we're not going to have a repeat of 2008 and 9, because there was 1 million homes on the market, new homes on the market. The builders were building like crazy. It wasn't a supply and demand issue that kept raising prices. It was just the funny money loans and what we call NINJA, no income, no job, no assets. The mirror test to get a loan, and people were selling one home and buying 5 other ones. And so people didn't have any equity. As we've talked about in previous videos, 42% of the people don't even have a mortgage, and 56% of the people have more than 50% equity. And I'll be quite honest with you, it's probably more than that, because literally in the last 3 months in our area, prices have gone up. If you had $1.5 million home, it's gone up like $300,000 in the last 3 months, $100,000 a month. But so what's causing, kind of the demand crisis a little bit compared to the supply? Well, you can see the builders got hurt so bad. It's just, they built nothing in the last decade. So they're playing catch up, especially in our area. Regulations to build is so difficult. And people want single family homes. We saw that, people flooding out of the cities, but yet the government is putting restrictions on single family homes being built, and it's much tougher. They basically want to go high instead of wide, which isn't obviously what people are moving to our valley for. And the other thing too is the cost. I know you might have heard that lumber cost is up 279%. I was in Home Depot the other day and I just went to look at the lumbers, and for a piece of 2x4 or 6x10, 6x12, it was $20 or $30 a board. Well, the average price in the United States is 300 and some odd thousand. The lumber cost has raised the price of building by 36,000 on the average home. So in our areas where our homes really aren't average, they're bigger, I would imagine that it's costing $50,000 to $100,000 more just in lumber costs to build, forgetting about regulations and everything like that. So the builders are trying to play catch up, and you sit there and go, well, why is lumber so expensive? Well, it's a couple reasons. I mean, in the last administration, there was a tariff put on lumber coming from Canada. But more than that, what happened is a ton of lumber mills went out of business when the market just like fell and the builders weren't building anymore after, the last recession. And so the builders, I mean, the lumber companies, it costs a lot to harvest and it costs a lot to store. So if they're not selling it in the last decade, you can see they weren't selling a lot of lumber in the last decade. Now that the building has picked up, man, they have to really catch up, because you can't just cut down a tree and have 2x4s tomorrow. It takes a long time, the harvest and such forth. So again, that's part of the situation with the cost. You look at the 2021 home price forecast. Here's the amazing part. The January projection, just like 3 months ago, but the market has been so hot. You can see I put the most faith in the Mortgage Bankers Association, because they basically are on the front line. They see who's basically coming in. They know the stats on people, applying for a loan. And you can see that their current projection is more than double what it was just a few months ago. And I absolutely agree, because the market was pretty hot coming into 2021. But what it's done the last 3 months is just unbelievable. I mean, literally, homes are going for $300,000 to $500,000. Average price homes, $300,000 to $500,000 more than they were 3 to 4 months ago. Is this going to stop? What's it going to take for it to stop? Well, here's one of the things. You look at the average interest rates for 30-year fixed rate mortgages. Well, it's almost going to take a perfect storm, because the market's so strong right now. It's going to take, potentially, the end of COVID, where more people are going back to work, where they can't necessarily drive, 50 miles to get to work. The other side is the fact that right now the government has a restriction on foreclosures. Well, the problem is there were hundreds of thousands of homes that were foreclosed prior to COVID in 2017, 18, 19. That was just part of the market. Well, they shut those down. So no one's foreclosing because they can't. They put a moratorium on foreclosure. So that inventory is not coming on the market. So as far as inventory wise, the builders have to catch up. The government has to get on the other side of COVID so they can allow these foreclosures that are just natural foreclosures, whether COVID or not. So, and then also the sellers basically saying that, hey, hey, this is a good time to get out and go to, even though prices have gone up in Nevada, Idaho, Texas, you're still basically paying 50 cents on a dollar and taking advantage of that, opening up the inventory a little bit. So those are different ways that we're going to see more inventory. With the demand, interest rates going up a little bit. Obviously, they're anticipating interest rates going up the next few years. That will dampen the demand a little bit. In our area, the other thing that might tamp the demand down a little bit, because what's happening is people used to be saying in the peninsula and San Jose, where prices were a lot higher because of proximity to Silicon Valley, homes were selling for $2 million. They could come over here and buy a home for $1 million. And they sit there and, it was such a good deal. It's like, someone from California going to Idaho or Nevada or Texas. But now what's happened is our prices have increased so much that $2 million home in San Jose is now 2.2, But that $1 million home 5 years ago in the San Ramon Valley, Tassajara Blackhawk, is $1.7 million. So they're still saving 500,000, but as we inch up closer to the prices that they have, they're going to sit there and go, well, why would I sell a home for $2 million in San Jose just to go to San Ramon to buy a home for $2 million in San Ramon? Now, having said that, I moved from San Jose to the San Ramon Valley in Danville, Blackhawk area, and there's a lot of other reasons that I would move here, even if I had to pay more for a home. But again, that might tampen the demand down a little bit. So higher interest rates as our prices rise here. And then hopefully on the other side, we get more inventory because people are deciding, hey, I'm going to get out while the getting's good. They let loose on these foreclosures a little bit, and the builders start catching up. But even in our area, it's tough because the trend in the United States, the federal government is, and some cities have done it, they don't even allow single family homes anymore. They want to go up because things become more affordable than larger plots of land. Well, the tough part about that, that's why people are moving here, because they get the 4 or 5 bedrooms, they get the nice yard. Especially with COVID, people have gotten used to their home being something more than just to go home and lay your head on your pillow. So anyway, if you have any questions at all, please reach out. One of the questions we get is, okay, Joe, I can get $300,000 to $400,000 more for my home. Now what do I do? Well, you know what? There's a process that we go through with clients. We're consultants, we're advocates for them, and advisors, and we sit down and go through a step-by-step process. Ask a lot of questions. So when we first meet with you, we're not going to talk about, hey, you should put your home on the market. We're going to ask a lot of questions. And then together we decide, hey, is it right to put your home on the market? Because it's a good question. Hey, is this market boom or bust? Where would I go if I sold? How do I sell and go buy something else? All great questions. Don't hesitate to reach out if you want to sit there, no obligation. Again, Joe Kehrig, 925-487-6838. Again, 925-487-6838. Or joe@kehrigteam.com. And if you like these videos, please tap the like button and hit the subscribe button and click on the bell to receive alerts on new videos. We're putting together a webinar completely on, this real estate market. Is it a boom or is it going to be a bust? And how did we get here and how do we get out of it? And if you do decide to sell, the steps that you go through just to make sure that you're not ending up homeless and sell your home and have no place to go. So again, please feel free to reach out. Joe Kehrig at the Kehrig Real Estate Team. And again, may God bless you and your family, and may God bless the United States of America. Have a great week.